Good evening, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the South Haven City Council. It is Tuesday, June the 20th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Invocation this evening, we have the pleasure of having Pastor Aaron Cobbs of the Spiritual Church of Christ here. And good evening, Pastor Cobbs.
Good evening.
You showed up and there was light. That's a good sign.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for our mayor, the city council, and leaders at every level of our city. Give them grace to bring forth truth, justice, and stability to our region. Defend their cause, O God, through this governing body tonight. We pray for wisdom, for strength, for courage to do the right thing, and good for all citizens of South Haven. And Father God, give us the wisdom to love one another. Give us the wisdom to know that we all made in your image. You said in your word that neither Jew nor Greek. So Father God, help us to show that love that runs from heart to heart and breast to breast in this city of South Haven. Father God, we just thank you. We give you all the praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And now if you're willing to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, Megan.
Jeff Arnold.
Here.
Wendy Onuki. Here. Joe Reeser.
Here.
Steve Schlack.
Here.
George Sleeper.
Here.
Letitia Wilkins.
Here.
Scott Smith.
Here. And I do not see Gail. Is she hidden out there?
I do not see Gail either.
All right. She probably came last night with maybe somebody else that came by last night.
Oh, no.
Could be. All right, so let's go ahead and move up. Now we have an update from the South Haven Van Buren County Conservation and Visitors Bureau, and I see the crew is here. So good evening, Jen, and everybody else that's here. I see.
Oh, she is here.
She is
Oh,
here.
I didn't know.
Hello,
Surprise,
Laura.
surprise.
You have a fantastic staff, by the way. You're all wonderful.
They're all right.
They're good.
They're
Good
fantastic.
people.
They're fantastic. So thank you all for allowing us to come today and give you an update on what's going on in travel and tourism, not only here in South Haven, but in the state and nationwide. So to just get started, we are the South Haven Van Buren County Convention and Visitors Bureau. We have a few aliases that we go by, the CVB, the Visitors Bureau, and if you find us online, we're Visit South Haven. Figure out how this thing works here. This thing. So to kind of explain a little bit more about our mission, we represent lodging. So we have 39 lodging members. They are required by law to collect a 5% assessment if they have 10 transient facilities or more. So when we talk about transient facilities, we say a place for sleeping that they stay in for less than 30 days. They're immobile, so we're not talking about RVs or campers or anything like that. And so that's who we serve, our lodging members. And we ultimately always say heads in beds. That's what we try to do. So just kind of talking about what's happening and where we're going for the summer. So Destination Analyst says that travel is at a all-time high right now. Is it working? All right. People are planning to travel to small towns, beach destinations, regional recreational areas. So that's us here in South Haven. And then we talk about why would people not travel. So they are not going to travel if inflation continues to rise, if gas prices go up. Right now we're looking like we're in a pretty good spot. I was just up north this weekend and our gas prices here are significantly lower. Looking nationwide, of course, staff shortages are continuing. There are 8 million jobs in the travel and tourism industry in the nation, and we still need to fill 2 million of them. So that's something that we're not just seeing here, but we're seeing it all over the nation still. Talking about some things that are happening also in Michigan. So this is a report from them from 2021. Visitor activity increased pretty significantly. The number of visitors grew by 10%, and spending rebounded to 91% from the 2019 levels. Also, spending was 2.5% above the 2019 levels throughout the state as well, so that's good news. And then looking a little bit closer to home, a new fun tool that we have over at the CVB is that we are able to get a better idea of who our visitors are based on their geolocation on their phones. And so we have over 100 geofenced areas in South Haven and Van Buren County. So this sampling that we're showing you here, and again, this is just a sampling. Not everybody has their location settings on, but they anticipate that this captures around 80% of people that are visiting the area. So in 2022, no surprise, Chicagoans are still our visitors. We see a lot of people from the Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo area. And then most recently in Detroit, the east side of the state, we're starting to see more and more people coming from the east side of the state as well. 34% of them are day trippers. 21% of them are staying for more than 6 days, so they're either just coming for the day or they're coming for the whole week, which was pretty interesting as well. If we start looking at our demographics here, the majority of our visitors are between 45 and 65 years old. They make over $100,000 a year, have at least a high school education, and 86% of them are white. I'd really like to show this slide here. You can see we're talking about age demographics here for the entire year of 2022. If you look at the spring of 22, you can see how the 65 and up shot up and the 16 to 24 demographic went down. And I just pulled a report for 23 and it looks like that's pretty consistent right now as well. Repeat versus one-time visitors, 65% of our visitors are repeat travelers. 35% of them are one-time travelers. And of those 65% repeat travelers, they're coming between 50 and 150 miles away. Jumping in a little bit, talk about events. So we can break down all of this information by day. And so we know that the Light Up the Lake fireworks show is the most popular, but it's also 4th of July weekend. So, you know, is it the fireworks or is it just a holiday weekend? We'll never know. And so they stay for an average of 1.8 days. You know, for us, that's what we do. Heads in beds, we want to know who's staying the longest in South Haven. Also, this is another good look, a snapshot at all of our events, kind of together. The only event that is showing a steady increase is the New Year's Eve celebration. We're still fairly new where we host that event. Ironically, in 2020, you can see that HarborFest had more impacts than it did in the past. And we started to investigate a little bit further, and that was about the time in 2020 when everything started to open back up. You know, the restrictions were reduced, things like that, and we saw a lot more visitors here than we did in some of the more urban areas. Everyone flocked to this side of the state. And so getting a little bit deeper into our membership, I mentioned we have 39 lodging members. So those 39 lodging members break down into, we have 5 chain hotels, 6 bed and breakfasts, 5 campgrounds, 12 hotel, motels, and resorts, 4 lodging facilities in Paw Paw, and 7 vacation rental management companies that represent over 250 vacation rental homes here in South Haven. So when we look at their revenue of all of our members, we saw in 2020, we only had an 8% dip that year. Compared to the rest of the state, everyone else had a dip of about 50 to 60%. So us being strategically located to Lake Michigan was very important. It was very good for us. We did see that all along the lakeshore, but we were one of the communities that took the least amount of hit during the pandemic, so we were very fortunate there. We anticipated rebounding in 2021, but we didn't anticipate that much of a rebound, so we had a really great year in 21. In 22, we thought maybe that was a little bit of an anomaly. Turns out we had a pretty decent year in 22 as well. Looking into this season, we got a little bit of a slower start, but nothing too scary, so we're looking at another pretty good summer probably. And then we break that down by month. 80% of their revenue is generated in June, July, and August. Again, nothing super shocking. We're starting to see a little bit of an increase in the fall. We've got a few events. As long as the weather holds up, everything is very, very weather dependent. So as long as the weather holds up, we see people stay longer in the fall. We certainly saw that in 2020 when kids were not going back to school. And then to break it down by lodging type, the only lodging type that didn't take a hit during the pandemic were vacation rentals. They shot up. Hotels were traditional hotels usually were kind of the leader of the pack, and then that didn't quite happen then. But we did see them shoot back up. But we also we know that was due to the addition of the Holiday Inn Express. So that really offered a lot more lodging facilities for us. The MEDC provides reporting for the entire county every year. So this is our most current report that we have, which is from 2021. They don't release that till towards the end of the year. We won't have for 22. But in 2021, there was $165 million estimated to be spent by visitors in Van Buren County. And then we break that down as well. Traditionally, it's been food and beverage that's always led the charge. And in 2020, we saw lodging creep up a little bit. And then in 2021, it shot up again. So that's very, very interesting to note that people are spending more and more money on lodging. And then just to get into a few numbers, again, these are numbers provided by the MEDC. The tourism industry supported 2,324 jobs in Van Buren County. That's 0.8% of Michigan's tourism labor. 11% of Van Buren County employment comes from tourism labor, and $70.5 million worth of income went to tourism industry laborers in 2021. Destination development, this is one of my topics that I really love talking about. It's really fun. In Michigan, there are 49 convention and visitors bureaus. What sets us apart is that we have a lot of really great leadership. We have a great board that really supports community enhancement, destination development, things like that. Over the course of the past 3 years, we've invested over $500,000 into several different projects here in South Haven, so I just kind of wanted to run through a few of those real quick. The Sesquicentennial Trail. In 2019, we celebrated our Sesquicentennial. The CVB worked with the Historical Association and Kayla Ridley to curate 11 historical panels. That was a $20,000 investment for us, and then that was completed last year, so we had the ribbon cutting for that. The bike rack project in 2020, we worked with Farron's Metalwork here right in South Haven to fabricate 18 bike racks. We worked with the Center for the Arts to help facilitate artists to hand paint each one of those. And then they were installed in 2021. And then in 2022, we installed another set of 4 sculpture bike racks as well. We love public art, so we decided we'd keep going. We commissioned Lou Rodriguez, who's responsible for the hummingbird in front of Clementine's. He also has had art at Art Prize several times. And so he created this interactive sculpture that was just installed this spring. His name is Robert. And we've seen lots of kids climbing on it already, so that was a $10,000 investment for us as well. In 2018, the CVB purchased property on County Road 388 with the intent of putting in a fully ADA-compliant kayak launch. We've worked with the South Haven Area Recreational Authority to obtain a grant. The CVB is contributing the matching dollars for that, and that is anticipated to open in the spring of 2024. We're working with several business owners here in town, one of them Soha Surf Shop, Outpost Sports, to put in a livery service so we can take folks from downtown and so they can have a little bit of a longer paddle for that. Exit 18, if you're heading northbound on the interstate here at exit 18, at the very end, there's a pretty blighted spot there. So we decided we wanted to grab that. And so right now we're working on taking those down, replacing it with just really basic welcome signage there so people have something nice to look at when they enter South Haven. The restrooms, I know you all are familiar with this project. So the Visitors Bureau, we are right across the street from you all. And so prior to this project, the city of South Haven leased the building, the back end of our building. And then we gave that to the city to continue to renovate the restrooms there, which are very much needed. We can't wait for those to be ready. And so we gifted that to the city. It's an investment value of $180,000 on our part. The covered bridge. The DNR plans on resurfacing the Cal Haven Trail from South Haven to Bloomingdale. That we just heard last week that they plan to close the bridge in a month. That we have been working with the DNR since we found out that the resurfacing was going to happen to try and save the covered bridge as well, but unfortunately, the covered bridge is coming down. We tried to work with them to replace it. Unfortunately, what the plans they have in place will not withstand the weight of a new cover, so they turned us down. And so we still have $100,000 line itemed in our budget to help do what we can, to salvage what we can, do what we can. We continue to talk to them weekly and just remain in correspondence to keep as much historical significance as we can. Again, our assessment district is South Haven, Van Buren County, and Casco Township. So we have 4 lodging properties in Pawpaw, so we make sure we show them a little love over there as well. So we're working with their DDA to put in some wayfinding down there, and that's anticipated to be ready in the summer of 2024 with a $62,000 investment on our part. And of course, the most important investment is our children. So every year, the CVB hosts 150 South Haven Public School 5th graders on the Cal Haven Trail with a handful of volunteers from the DNR, the Land Conservancy, just a really nice group of people that get out there. Mayor Smith usually shows up and has lunch with all of us, just to keep our kids educated. They have a really, really great time, and we do that each and every year. So this presentation was originally an hour long, so I condensed it down. I just wanted to give you some of the highlights, let you know what's going on nationwide, statewide, locally, what we're up to. And so thank you for your time, and we look forward to another successful season.
Thank you. And Jen, thank to you, Lori, everybody. You guys do such a great job. The trail education, all of it. I mean, it's so much fun. If you ever get a chance, we've been down as teachers, but it's just a great program. See those little kids down there. It's almost like flywheelers. I mean, not flywheelers, but think of our fishing tournament. You know, it's always cold, no matter what, no matter when you have that.
It's always cold.
It's always cold there.
We're going to push it back a month
There
next
you go.
year.
No, it's good.
Keep
But
going.
anyway, we appreciate it, and I just remind everybody, oftentimes, we, the city, get a lot of credit for, they think we're spending all this money on, you know, tourism. They think we're putting up the billboards, really nice billboards, when you're down by St. Joe, that's your artwork, and it's
Yes,
beautiful, it looks
yes,
great, we
yes.
appreciate it.
Yes.
But,
Those are the slides that got cut out to save for time. Yes,
Yeah.
we are responsible for all the billboards,
Nice
most of the marketing,
Do that.
magazines, all the ads, they come out of our office as
you
well.
contribute for
Yes.
fireworks every year, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes where you're working real closely with the city, with the chamber, to kind of make everything hum along very nicely. So we thank you, your hard work, your staff, you're all wonderful, so
Thank you for being a great
Thank you.
partner. We appreciate it.
of course, thank you. Thank you all for coming, and again, thanks for the great work. And feel free to sneak out if you want to go have a lovely night. Thank you. You want to sneak out, Lori? I'll let you. She's still sticking around. All right. That takes us to the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The agenda is approved. Consent agenda, items A through I.
We wanna
Oh, you
get
miss it?
Item 8.
Oh, public, no, don't want to miss that, sorry. Thought I just missed the public. Next, we have public comment for items which are on the agenda. We would say excluding public hearing, but we don't have a public hearing. So any items on the agenda you'd like to discuss? If there's something on the agenda you want to discuss, come on up. State your name and address. You'll have up to 5 minutes. And good evening.
Hello, my name is Mike Campbell. I live at 216 Erie Street.
Good evening.
I am speaking to the consent agenda, specifically to the appointment of Robert Sherman to the Planning Commission. First of all, I want to congratulate Mr. Sherman on his appointment. I'm sure that it will pass. And no disrespect to you, sir, I am going to talk about the process by which you were chosen. The timeline for choosing the Planning Commission and other board members started in late winter. Applications were made available for anyone who wanted to apply for a board or commission, and the original deadline was April 21st. soon before April 21st, an extension went out and said applications now will be taken until May 8. May 8 came and went, and there were 7 applications that were submitted for the Planning Commission, including 3 from the incumbents. The incumbents' applications worked their way through, and on May 15th, this council approved their candidacy to the Planning Commission for new terms. Very soon thereafter, Lige resigned for whatever reasons, none of my business. So then the job began again to fill that position. So that's kind of where things get murky. I would expect that you would have gone back to the applications, the 4 remaining ones that were new, 2 of which were from females, 2 of which were from males. Having put a female on the Planning Commission would have been a good thing to do from a DEI perspective, given that only 2 members of the 9-member Planning Commission are female. That was not done. So DEI was not an important consideration. Secondly, 2 of the candidates had prior experience with boards or commissions or committees. That was not considered, so prior experience was apparently not important. Now, for full disclosure, the next thing that I'm talking about, training, is actually the application that I submitted. I submitted an application at the encouragement of someone who has PC experience. I said, no, I don't want to because I'm not going to get chosen. They encouraged me to apply anyway, so I did. They additionally encouraged me to take the American Citizens Planner course from Michigan State University, which is a 24-module, 20-hour course that teaches you about how planning commissions work, all about the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, and also exposes you to the local South Haven master plan and other ordinances. I took that and I put that into my application. Obviously, I wasn't chosen, so training was not an important consideration. Then that's when it gets even murkier, because apparently the process then changed, and it was a matter of going out and looking for someone else. Not by application, but just searching wherever you can for someone to replace Lige. On the 14th of this month, the preliminary agenda of the City Council agenda was published. There was no name associated with it. On the 16th, the final agenda was put out, and there was a name, Mr. Sherman's. In the agenda packet, there was an application from Mr. Sherman that was dated 6/14. So my hypothesis is that a search went on looking for someone other than the people that had applied by May 8th, and then when they found the person, then a backfill application was filed. It seems to be less transparent than it ought to be, particularly when you are trying to differentiate this city from other cities by one of the virtues that you want to have, and that is transparency. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Was there anybody else?
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. I'm talking with regard to agenda item 11. Chairman Stegman got it right when he said at the June 1st Planning Commission meeting, and I'm going to read what he said, so the I is him, not me. I've stated this many times that the original ordinance was quite clear, and the stories are an important part of that. I still have a hard time believing that people thought there was gray territory and interpreted it in a few different ways, and I think some builders were allowed to get away with some things they should not have. I don't think just going to static height with no story limitations is the right thing. For note, that's done now. The ordinance change in 2015 removed a half story, so it went from 2.5 to 2 stories. There was also a change in feet, and there was also a change in how it was measured. So there were several changes, but the key factor here is it went from 2.5 to 2 stories because the City Council requested that the story limitation be removed. I urge you not to set a public hearing, but to send this back to the Planning Commission for consideration of maintaining the current height requirements based on both feet and floor stories limitations as approved in December 2015. That was not an option before the Planning Commission. The City Council directed the Planning Commission to set height based on only feet. That directive was short-sighted. The Planning Commission was split on this vote. Had someone just listened to the chairman, I bet I would not even have to be here making this request. Had they just simply made the motion as an alternative to include both the feet and the stories, I bet that would have passed. But that's not what the City Council requested, so that did not happen. If any member on this City Council truly wants to protect the character of our neighborhood, and then you do, then you will support a motion and send this back to the Planning Commission for consideration of height being measured by both feet and stories. With the time it has taken to get this before the City Council since the original directive, staff have proven they can review plans of homes with both feet and story. Please maintain the current height ordinance of feet and stories. The height and story requirements from December 2015 amendments have added balance. When that combination was approved in December 2015, that balanced the desire to build big and the desire to maintain our character of our neighborhoods. The critical story limitation was somehow dropped when that ordinance was transcribed from the version approved by the City Council in December 2015 to the original document used by staff. Quite baffled how nobody caught that omission, but let's move forward. What has happened since that date? We do not have the history before 2021, but we do know a very uncharacteristic home was constructed in a residential neighborhood in Ward 1. It really sticks out like a skyscraper. I am quite certain other homes would have been 3 floors and 35 feet had the plans been approved before the transcription error was identified instead of after. Please do not set the proposed ordinance for public hearing. If you do, that is not protecting the character of our neighborhoods. Do not say you will look at the story element later. The horse will have left the barn if that is what you do, never to be caught again. Do not let haste make waste. The error is because of staff error. Let's get it right and protect the character of our community. What has happened since I identified that transcription error with the use of FOIA to obtain the documents? Homes have been built under that combination because that combination was reinserted because that's what the law should have been since December 2015. Staff have proven that they can do both feed and stories and approve construction. Staff have proven that time again. Therefore, please listen to the PC chair. Please send this back to the PC for consideration of both feet and stories for height aligned with the 2015 amendment. That was right to protect our city's character and charm. A combination of both feet and stories is needed. If height is measured in just feet, we get skyscrapers, and that is not protecting the character of our neighborhoods. Again, staff have proven that they can do this. If any of you feel strongly about protecting our neighborhoods, you will support my request and send this back to the Planning Commission, not ram it through and cause skyscrapers. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
Sorry.
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. Just a quick comment on item F. And definitely going to try to rehearse everything that Mr. Campbell stated, but I believe he did a great job with it. And all due respect to Mr. Sherman, I'm going to ask the council out of, for transparency and integrity to the process, I'm going to ask the council to put a hold on that appointment until the council can further investigate what took place in the process and why it seemed to be a little muddy. So I'm going to ask the council to kind of maybe do some investigation because we want to be transparent, especially with and have integrity in our processes and our decision-making as a council. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
David Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard, and I just wanted to briefly say that I support the ideas that Joe Wilkins brought up and also that Mary Hosley brought up. I think these are very legitimate concerns. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right, very good. That takes us to the consent agenda, items A through I.
I make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through I.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. And
Hey.
this is a, yep.
But I don't know the process, but can I ask that we pull F for discussion?
You sure can. So let's go ahead and,
Would there be, that would be an amendment to the motion? right?
that's true, we gotta. Need to amend that motion.
So we're asking for an amendment.
Do I have to amend it? I make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through I and hold item F for discussion.
Second.
All right, we got a motion, we got a second. So let's go ahead and, any more discussion other than that? Otherwise, we'll roll call that. Good? Okay, let's roll call that.
Arnold,
Yes.
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Schlack,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. Okay. So let's pull out, so right now, we're just going to talk about the appointment of Mr. Sherman to the Planning Commission. In the end, we did have applications. We opened it back up when we had the resignation. Mr. Haney, we had, additional time to, I know I've had, Mr. Sherman, someone who's talked to me in the past about Planning Commission, it would go back several years, and so I've sort of had that out there. Him and I have talked about it different times, and I encouraged him to get an application in to put on PC. It's that simple. So, again, I've worked with him on the Parks Commission for quite a while now. I know he's very diligent, very detail-oriented, so that's how that came to be. Like I said, it goes back, quite a while when he first had applied for planning. I have to figure out how far back it goes. But again, I would stand by that nomination. Outstanding man, been great on parks, he'll do great on planning.
Can I ask you a question, just for clarification for us, but then maybe the public as well as to the process of appointing and approving people to the boards and commission? Because we as council don't see all of the applications, right? So this is like your role, but could you clarify a little bit of the process?
Sure, I mean, we frequently encourage people, apply, we get applications. I mean, we've said it before, trying to encourage anybody to, put your name in. And from there, it's just a matter of trying to look, we don't have term limits. So frequently, reappointments are pretty much granted. And from there, it's just trying to, backfill in new names, new faces, people that, sometimes we'll get recommendations, people will call us, people will call me, people, call staff. I've had to, one of the appointments, I've talked to, Mr. Fitton a few different times, just, so it's, a lot of times it's just talking in person to people.
I'd like to ask a question, Mayor. So there was just one application, or were there 3 applications?
There were a total of 4.
Okay.
I don't have the list in front of me, but there was a number of applications.
Okay, and so when you get the number, because I know for a while we were struggling getting applicants.
Correct. On
And-
some boards, we still do.
So 3, 4, so how do you determine which one you're going to choose? I guess that's what people want to know. Do you just use your own judgment, or?
It's
Okay.
it's that, it's intuition. I'm always trying to, we could diversify. I mean, we've tried to, diversify what we can. If we have, I think I've said it before, we'd love to see younger applicants, Hispanic, Black, Latino, you name it. I mean, trying to get more diversity. We don't always get that. So, yeah, it's just a matter of,
And it is really the mayor gets to nominate, and then the board confirms, so.
So, again, I will stand by my vote for Mr. Sherman, outstanding man. Been a pleasure to work with on the Park Commission and has expressed interest for quite a while. So, on that, yeah, you got it.
I'll make a motion to appoint Bob Sherman to the Planning Commission for a partial term.
Second.
All right, we have a motion second. This one is a roll call as well.
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Schlack,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. That takes us to new business. City Council be asked to consider the approval of a budget amendment for the fiscal year 2022-23 and authorize the finance director to amend the budget as stated within this report.
I'll make a motion to approve a budget amendment for the fiscal year 2022-23 and authorize financial director to amend the budget as stated within the report.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Kate, Michelle, whoever's coming up.
Thank you, Mayor. I also have the Finance Director, Michelle Argue, here. As you can see by this report, this is part of our budget process, as we have adopted the next fiscal year, we have to close out this fiscal year, and that always means some changes, not only to the revenue that has been collected, as well as expenditures. And here, we're seeing overall budget revenues show a net increase of $3,623,476, while the overall budgeted expenditures increased by $737,397. So we did see an increase in revenue, but we also saw some increase in expenditures based on our original budget from last year. Overall, we are seeing that the general fund's projected fund balance as of 6/30 of this year is going to be $3,744,851, or 35.44% of the projected general fund expenditures.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Go ahead.
I just have a question for you. On page 81 of that, sorry if this is so basic, but the part that says city council and then expenditures are $128,898, the original ones. Can you break that down for us?
I don't have any notes on that right now.
Okay.
So you're looking for the 128,898 number?
Yeah, that, I was just curious about if that's like the entire running of the meetings and research and whatnot, or what
I
that.
can look into that and follow
Okay.
up with an email for you.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Thanks.
Was there anything else? If not, we've got a motion, we've got a second to approve the budget amendment as reported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's approved. Next, City Council is going to be asked to consider the approval of a proposal from Compton's, Inc. for the amount of $114,863 and authorize staff to execute the necessary documents for the Kids Corner alternate plan.
I make a motion to approve the proposal from Compton's, Inc. in the amount of $114,863 and authorizing staff to execute the necessary documents.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Kids Corner, looking good, just cut the ribbon, and we're continuing to improve.
Yes, I have Aaron Preep here, who will be serving as the staff liaison to the Parks Commission with some additional notes. But ultimately, we are looking at a design for additional elements from Compton's via Leathers. And what this would be is for an ADA accessible swing. And this was something that had been vetted by the Parks Commission recently, I think at their last meeting. And so this would be of the amount that City Council has already dedicated from their ARPA funds. And the amounts, I believe, come up to $114,000 out of the $119,000 that was allocated.
Okay.
So we have some, you've seen it inside your packet. We have what's there now, and then we have those extra items in E and F. And those would be engineered wood fibers for the surface. Any unsuitable soils would be removed and sand put in place. And the curbs around the perimeter will be installed if and when the city chooses to do a poured-in-place surface, so that can be installed. I saw many of you out there for the ribbon cutting, so if you saw what that poured-in-place was, it's that very spongy material that really helps in case children fall down and prevents any kind of damage. So We're also, so the item would be for the installation of a fishing boat sway fund structure. This would be the only play structure in the project area outside the accessible play area where a wheelchair will be able to access it.
And it's looking good so far, and I look
pretty
forward
good.
to more improvements, so. Are your kids enjoying it?
Yes.
Good.
I've been there a few times already.
Excellent, very good. All right, we had a motion, we got a second. Any questions on this? I think we're all pretty straight ahead. We're going, you're all right? We got a motion, we got a second to approve the proposal from Compton's Inc. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. Thank you, Aaron. All right, City Council will be asked to consider the introduction of a proposed ordinance to regulate building height through measurement of numerical feet only.
I make a motion to introduce the proposed amendment to building height limitations in the zoning ordinance that would regulate the height of buildings in numerical feet only.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. And Griffin is here to tell us more.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the chance to bring this before you. So the City of South Haven's zoning ordinance presently regulates the height of buildings through two different mechanisms, one being the height in numerical feet, the other being the height in terms of number of stories. Some challenges associated with this were discussed with you all the way back about this time last year. Following that, City Council approved a motion directing the Planning Commission to consider an ordinance that would regulate building height with respect to numerical feet only and eliminate the separate regulations based on stories. After the Planning Commission's work and review, they considered several different options and ultimately recommended what is before you all this evening. I can go over just briefly kind of the 5 different components of this, but it removes story limitations in the various zoning districts, removes story limitations for mixed-use PUDs and accessory structures. It revises some definitions on terms such as height and grade, provides a detailed methodology for ensuring how the height is measured, since it'll only be based on numerical feet. And then lastly, it would require any building that's going to get within 3 feet of the maximum allowable height in that zoning district to take some extra steps to ensure that that can be replicated and or that there are appropriate records. So staff believes that this recommendation from the Planning Commission is consistent with what you all asked of them back in July of 2022, and that it will eliminate confusion and nonconformities relating to the story regulations in the current version of the zoning ordinance. So with that, it's recommended that City Council introduce this proposed amendments this evening and understand that there will be a public hearing. If you all decide to introduce it, there will be a public hearing at a future meeting where you all can then consider a vote on the ordinance amendments.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. You want to share a little more? There was, I mean, just one count was that they only considered one thing. Would you like to just share with that a little bit? I mean, they considered several.
I guess I'll stand by what I said a minute ago and just add that the Planning Commission reviewed this for approximately 10 months. They considered a variety of different options, and I'm sure Councilman Sleeper can speak to them if you all are interested.
Perfect. And I knew there were several, so. I know it is confusing. I know I live in one of the confusing houses where the half concept is possible, where a walkout basement is possible, so part of it was to clean it up. Can you speak to what's common in other municipalities, or is this, height, is it atypical to do height only? Is it?
Without going back and looking into it in more detail, what I can tell you is there are other communities who regulate both height by numerical feet and with stories. I am seeing many more move towards just the height in numerical feet, not as many in the stories. But I think where we saw significantly more divergence is when the Planning Commission started to get into deciding how height would be measured, at what point, and putting all these extra requirements on. We found that very few other communities, if any, were getting into that level of detail on those things. So I think that's when the Planning Commission kind of took a little bit of a step back. They put a couple additional requirements, I think more towards safeguards in the ordinance that would be appropriate, but ultimately decided not to go a lot further there.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for that. Other questions to get us going?
Yeah, first question, maybe George can answer it. I went to the Planning Commission the night this was discussed, and this is from my recollection, and I could be wrong, so maybe George can straighten me out. Either it was extremely close to vote, or it was tied and then it passed. But the question I really have is how many people weren't there that night to vote? I thought it was 2, but it was at least 1. George, do you know offhand?
I believe there was at least 1 missing. I know we had an odd number. We had voted on this in the past in Planning Commission meetings, and it came up as a tie. We were not able to. So you're right, it was a close vote, but it did pass at the Planning Commission level.
And as far as you know, there's only 1 person missing.
I can't remember if it was 1 or 2, but I know that I'm pretty sure it was just 1, but it's just my recollection.
I only ask that because this is one of those issues near and dear to the community. The R1, R2, the residential communities. And height comes up in a lot of the complaints, right, wrong, or indifferent, but it is an issue. So today, I told Kate I was going to go drive and look at some homes, and maybe Bishop Wilkins can tell me the exact street, but I thought it was Indiana and another street. But I looked at 2 and then a new one being built, 3, and they are so incongruent with the community. They are so high. Now, I don't have the ability to measure it, but I know it was 3 stories each one, and it just stuck out. And I just think it's not in line with what that community has around it, and it just doesn't seem right to me. So while I talked to Kate and I told her, it makes sense when she said, you know, the stories get complicated because you have peaks, you have little half rooms up top, or you have attics, not even stories. It can get complicated, and I understand that, and I don't want to have the city trying to get into those kind of details. But the flip side is, this is about residential living and what's comfortable for the people in the community. And what I saw today, and Kate, I do have them on my cell phone, and I'll be glad to share them with you. But what I saw today was not in line with the other homes in the community. It stuck out like a sore thumb. So that's the only reason I have to support the stories and the feet. The other last thing Kate informed me, which was really good information, she told me that in 2015 and earlier, and correct me, Kate, if I'm wrong, it was always 40 foot. We took it in 2015, and this was discussed at planning, down to 35 foot. So that seems very fair, 35 foot, because I know even they talked about 30, and that you don't need to do that because we're already 5 foot below where it was before. But the stories is part of the component of this whole thing, and as much as I want to make this easy for the city, I can't see having 3 stories. So that's just my take on it.
Just to clarify, the building height was lowered from an overall allowable height of 40 feet in 2015 to 35 feet. Prior to the amendments that were approved by council in December of 2015, residential building height was measured at 2 points, midway between the eaves and the peak, and at the peak. Homes could be no taller than 30 feet at the midpoint, and no taller than 40 feet at the peak. The 2015 amendment also eliminated the midpoint measurement, reduced the maximum peak measurement from 40 foot to 35 feet, and eliminated the allowance of the half story. That's what happened in 2015.
I just wanted to chime in and say I agree with what Joe said. I've seen some of those houses in my drives through a lot of different neighborhoods, and they do change the character of the neighborhood. I wouldn't say necessarily for the better, and I am for change and for a lot of modern things, but I think we have to be careful when it comes to our neighborhoods, and especially those where we have a lot of residents still living there. When we're trying to prevent things like gentrification in neighborhoods, I would prefer to stay with stories for now. I like that we simplified a lot of other issues, so I feel like the Planning Commission did a lot of good work. I would just prefer to see stories in there as well.
I'll just say I agree with Mr. Reeser and Wendy. I live in, of course, you know, I live in Ward 1, and I see the houses everywhere in my ward, and they are very tall. And it is changing the neighborhood from when I moved there over 25 years ago. And I'm not even going to elaborate because you guys already know how I feel. I agree with Wendy. I think we need to stick with stories.
So adding stories isn't going to change the height, right? Does everyone understand that? Because you can have a 35-foot house with 2 stories. It's still going to be a 35-foot house. What the Planning Commission is submitting to us is just what we asked for. So, in my mind, sending it back to the Planning Commission is the wrong thing to do. I mean, the Planning Commission spent a long time working on this, getting us what we asked for, and now we're sending it back to them, saying basically keep it the way it was. I can't go with that. I'm sorry.
I think it comes down to if we need to talk about, if we want to lower the height, that's a different discussion. This is how we're measuring the height, correct?
That's an element, but there is also the removal of the stories.
But as far as going any higher or lower, that's not in
Correct.
this,
It would
correct?
still, the maximum height in terms of feet would still be the same.
Right, 35.
So this is just a different,
Correct.
a simpler way to measure it?
That'd
Is
be a
that
way you
safe
could
to
put it.
say?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's no different, the height is no different, correct, than the current ordinance?
The maximum height in terms of feet is no difference, correct?
So if it's a height discussion, that's a separate issue, correct? So this is just how we get in the same spot and simpler to measure? Whether it's on the side of a hill or a slope or whatever, the maximum height figured out from, that way they can't do the berm and this and that?
Right, there's also the finished grade and the natural grade has been defined in this ordinance.
Correct. And that helps staff on that issue,
It
correct?
does.
So I'm good with this ordinance. I think it, like George says, it's doing what we asked them to do and simplify. So it doesn't change the height, and if we want to have that height discussion down the road, I think that's perfectly appropriate for definitely some areas of town.
Okay, it's all right. I think, well, I guess I started with some, and I go back and forth. I am ultimately good with 35 feet. Like I said, I'm in one of those weird homes, because I got the call going, we're gonna measure your house, because we were 2.5, because I'm 3 on one side and I'm 2 on another. And I'm glad I still have the option. I mean, I still like the concept of a walkout basement, which currently we don't do because we lost the half. So I think for simplicity's sake, I will vote in favor to at least send this to for further discussion. And if we want to talk more about height at a later time, we could do that. But I think, as was stated, it's not going to change the height. You could have a one-story, 35-foot home if you wanted. So, not that you would. So, all right. If there's nothing else, why don't we just roll call this, just to say we did.
Reeser,
No.
Schlack,
Yes?
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
No.
Arnold,
Yes.
Onuki,
No.
and Smith.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Very good. All right. Next, City Council is going to get an update from our police chief, Miss Natalie Thompson. And good evening, Chief.
you're still smiling. You survived Harbor Fest.
Thank you. Is this on? I wanted to start tonight with.
Can you put it closer to your mouth?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is that better?
Better.
I wanted to start tonight with some of our statistics. What I have is year-to-date, January 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2023. And then in addition, I'll have some specific golf cart citations that are a total that will include from May 31st until today's date. So first of all, for 2023 so far, we are up to 242 arrests, 1,023 citations and warnings. So it looks like we're way ahead so far from the previous 4 years. Last year, we had 1,685 total. So the officers are doing a very good job of enforcement. Foot patrol hours, we are up to 107 hours. Property checks, we're up to 401. And then our calls for service so far for the year, in the city of South Haven, we are up to 969. In the township, 417. And that's an overall total calls for service at 1,386. Our number of complaints, and these are incidents that officers do a report on, are up to 788. And for assaults and domestic assaults, again, this is just through May 31st because we had a few this weekend, so that number is higher. We had 26 assaults that were non-domestic, and we had 25 assaults that were domestic relationship involved. And then for our citations, the traffic moving citations, we have written 438, and we've given 543 warnings. And typically, the warnings go hand in hand with one of the moving traffic citations. Very commonly, the officers may write for one violation and give a warning for one or two other violations. Parking citations, the police department has written 106. That is separate from the beach parking enforcement team. And then you can see up to May 31st, we had only written 4 golf cart tickets. I think that a lot of that may have been weather related. So to date, as of today's date, I did a tally, and we have written 23 golf cart citations. So they've stepped it up in the month of June. I don't have exactly what each ticket was for golf carts, but the primary violation that I have seen is a seatbelt violation, which I think that's a very important violation as far as golf carts go. In addition to that, I know we've been receiving, well, a lot of golf cart complaints, but in particular, the Baseline Road is still an issue. Not only on the road, because the speed limit is 35, so they're not allowed on Baseline Road at all between North Shore Drive and Blue Star. But some golf carts are using that path now that is for pedestrians. So I put out a directed patrol yesterday, so we're going to try and focus more on that. And we have a little bit of a waiting list for our message sign, but we can actually, besides measuring speed, we can have it display a message. So we intend on getting that out on Baseline just as a reminder to folks for the summer that you can't drive those on the path. Again, July 3rd event planning, been very busy trying to get that in order. At the end of this week and next week, I'm going to be getting out press releases just a little bit earlier than I did last year. Just reminders for the public. Special bridge operations for July 3rd. In fact, tomorrow I have my final Marine traffic meeting with Marine Patrol. Coast Guard, some local residents who have a special interest in boat safety. Kate's going to be there, so we have that final meeting tomorrow just to go over the marine traffic plan for when fireworks are over. I'll also be sending out the press release on just basic reminders, what safety precautions are being undertaken. And then we're also going to include just a map that has an overlay of all 13 of our traffic control points that we have manned after fireworks. Last year, we had a few complaints, but it was one of the better years for traffic clearing out of town. I think it was in about an hour. In the past, it's taken a lot longer. So we're always trying to improve that, but I'll be sending that out. And then also, as everyone knows, we have several areas throughout the city for the day. I think there's 25 or 26 different areas throughout the city that we put special no parking signs. Now, that is primarily just because traffic is so congested, and not only for emergency vehicle paths, but just for regular traffic, because it still gets gridlocked, but these are for a reason. So I will be sending out a press release with a list of those areas where we put up no parking signs. DPW helps us that weekend before, along with a map that will just show the overall areas where we're going to be posting those. Again, those are temporary. Bill Hunter does help me with a traffic control order, so that's just for the day, so that all these press releases will be rolling out the end of this week and next week. And then I have just a brief rundown of the past Harbor Fest weekend. It was very busy. The officers did a very good job. So on Friday, besides festival events, the officers were out on foot patrol. We have our normal calls for service. We had some traffic arrests, found property, which is very common in the summer. We had a couple civil disputes. We had retail fraud at a couple of our big box stores. And we had a couple two-car accidents, not injuries. We had 4 traffic arrests with the officers doing traffic. Had a couple general assists to individuals, and we had a civil dispute with some neighbors over property. On Saturday, we had 3 traffic arrests. We had a single vehicle crash. We had a hit-and-run crash. We had a malicious destruction of property. We had 2 medical assist to Shays, and actually one of those, the officers got there very quickly and used Narcan and were able to save a victim. So it was a person going into cardiac arrest from an opiate of some sort. So we also had a stolen vehicle that we later recovered the next day. We had a domestic violence assault arrest. We had 2 different welfare checks on Saturday. Both involved people experiencing a mental health crisis. And again, our officers do a very good job on those. Those take some time, but we responded to 2 of those on Saturday. And then also on Saturday, in fact, I had a question from Mr. Veenstra. We received, I call it a tip for information, and for any information we get, we always analyze, we do an assessment of the credibleness of the threat. And we didn't know who gave us the information, but it was very specific. So we had information that there was going to be a drive-by shooting at Elkenberg Park on Saturday during the day or into the evening. So once I'm aware of that information, I'm always going to err on the side of caution. So Sergeant Griffith and I, we reached out to people in the community to help us spread the word that we're going to be getting some extra officers in the area. There's a fine balance between doing too much and too little, but just reassure the community of our purpose, because I was very aware and very respectful of the celebrations that were going on Saturday. And so we had a heavy officer presence. And I was happy the day went fine. And it seemed to go very well. I think we're building some good relationships. We got some thank yous. It was a great improvement, I can say, from maybe 20, 25 years ago. So the good news is it didn't happen. I think the presence was appreciated because even on a busy summer weekend, we've got a festival, but that went to the top of my list. So we had that going on Saturday. And Saturday night, we had 2 drunk driving arrests, and then into Sunday morning, we had another drunk driving arrest, 2 traffic crashes. We had 2 more domestic violence complaints. One actually was a home invasion that was a domestic. That person fought with the officers, and it was also someone experiencing a mental health crisis, so that one was a little bit time-consuming. So had a busy weekend in between as best the officers could do. Checked the parks, did some foot patrol. So we stayed busy, but I would say overall it went pretty well. So.
That's it. Very good. Well, I appreciate it. I did get positive feedback on the foot patrols, just so you know. I had a couple different just comments and thank yous for being out there, and so that's for sure. How are our new officers doing?
They're doing very good. They're getting acclimated, and so getting them out of cars
Yeah.
on foot, it's always a transition because they like to be in their cars, and it's like, okay, you've done really good on traffic control, but now
Yeah, good.
you need
Get
to
'em
get out
out.
of your cars and meet the community. So that we're still working on that, and they're doing that, but that's very common with new officers.
Yeah, no, it's great. I know the downtown merchants really appreciate when they just see them out and about. I hear it over and over again.
And I will pass it on. So yes, when you see them out of their car,
We'd
that's
love to
what
see
they're
them.
required to do.
Yes.
They're not
Come on
just
out. We
not
don't
working.
fight. So, no,
right.
thank you, but
Yep.
thanks to all of them. Joe, go ahead.
Normally, one of us will say something like, we're grateful for the police, which we all are. I want to make this personal to you. Last week, I called you after hours, and I had 2 concerns. One, near the Elkenberg Park area, I talked to a resident who had a couple concerns, nothing horrible. But you spent time on the phone talking to me about how you were going to reach out to that resident and help them and help the community down there. And I just thought that was amazing after hours all that time. Then on a very personal note, I had a concern about my well-being and my family. And you spent time to give me advice, which you did not have to do after hours. So I'm grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. And on that, we're down to public comment, where citizens in the audience will be heard on items and not on the previous agenda. So if you'd like to chat about something we didn't already talk about, you'll have up to 5 minutes. Come on up, state your name and address. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening. Paul Vandenbosch, 757 Superior, running for 2nd Ward City Council. My vision for South Haven is as a highly desirable residential lakeshore community. In the past, we have had an economic development strategy which prioritizes seasonal business, and this strategy has had a number of negative impacts, in particular lack of activity during the off-season. An economic development strategy which results in loss of population is a self-destructive strategy, even if some people are profiting from it. Our biggest problem is the negative impact of short-term rentals. These impacts are most obvious in the off-season. Those impacts are felt by year-round employers, year-round residents, and year-round service providers. Currently, the city has permitted over 700 short-term rentals, and there is no upper limit in place. If we had limited short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods 6 years ago, it would have resulted in a great deal of investment in the lodging industry to meet demand. This would have helped to improve our commercial districts. We would have had a local residential community and a thriving tourism industry. South Haven would have been more attractive as a city with history, character, and community rather than the current situation where we are becoming more and more a tourist camp. My goal in City Council will be to reduce the number of short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods. We will use established legal precedent and best practices by other cities to protect residential neighborhoods. I propose to allow short-term rentals in commercial districts while discouraging operation of short-term rentals in single-family neighborhoods. Other issues, I support the city's efforts to create affordable housing. I will prioritize enforcement on loud vehicles and aggressive drivers. My goal as city council member will be to give the city's residents a voice and to make sure city government treats residents in a respectful manner. That's what I stand for, and those are my goals for the city of South Haven as city council member in Ward 2. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Paul. Is there anybody else? Going once, going twice. Evening, Todd.
Todd Heinrich, 357 Moore Court. It's about 200 yards over there. It has 2 houses on it. I know most of you. Taught my kids. Some of you have been in my house. I've been in your homes. Deep connections going back over 30 years. It's true for almost everybody sitting here. Those sorts of connections are being torn because of short-term rentals. They have, I'm going to stick with my speech because I'll mumble. Short-term rentals in 2016, 2018 were called non-conforming in use in single-family neighborhoods. Non-conforming is a fancy legal phrase that means unwelcome. It means unwelcome. Our short-term rental ordinance has tried to mix oil and water. They don't mix. They make a mess. Hundreds of residents posted signs in their front yards to get your attention. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds put their names on an initiative to provide you a way out of this mess, to provide the city a way out of this mess. We all know the benefits of short-term rentals because the short-term rental industry tells us. Jen Sistrunk does a great job. All the information she says is income, income, income. But we now know that very little of the short-term rental money is coming to South Haven. Most STR owners live out of state. The largest booking agents, Airbnb, VRBO, Vacasa, Evolve, take their percent and deposit a majority of the rest in distant banks. The majority of STR property taxes go to Lansing and don't come back here. A small percent of the money goes to South Haven's seasonal workers. While some contractors have done well, most of the contractor and maintenance trucks and the workers that I see are from 25 to 50 miles away. Some are from out of state. It's fun to think about the income and to think about the people coming here and spending money. It's not fun to think about the expenses. A business student will tell you that the #1 reason small businesses fail is a poor understanding of costs. When our short-term rental ordinance passed, we didn't understand the costs, all the costs of STRs. Now we have a better understanding. The primary cost of STRs is just displacement. We removed 1 in 5 homes. That means we removed 20% of the families, or at least the opportunity for a family to live in those homes. The secondary cost is that Most full-time residents do not want to live next to a business STR. If a resident has the resources to, they move when a business STR moves in next door. What percent is secondary? I don't know. 10%, 20%? It's a cost. The highest cost is something that I have not heard discussed, and it's what our realtor friends call location, location, location. For 150 years, our lakefront, our riverfront, and adjacent to downtown have attracted highly productive people here. Because our short-term rental ordinance has no overlays, no spacing limitations, the most popular neighborhoods for business STRs are in the same areas that have, for that 150 years, attracted and retained talented, resourceful business and civic leaders. People and families who have served in this room, built great things, provided indispensable services, and meaningful year-round employment. Their homes, the homes that attracted them and kept them here, have gone away. Your friends and neighbors understand your hesitance to tackle this. We are with you and behind you. You represent us. You have been threatened with legal action if you reasonably restrict the number of neighborhood STRs. That means that my family, my neighbors are being threatened. Threatened if we do what almost every other Lake Michigan tourist city has done, restrict short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else? Good evening.
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. For the current city council members who have said you are for fewer STRs, I urge you to support the following that you can do yet tonight. Tonight, I'm simply asking for a vote to set a few agenda items for the very next city council meeting if staff does not act without a directive that would be voted on at the next meeting. Such a vote does not violate Open Meetings Act. It simply ensures that a request from a majority of the city council members is completed. Items for which the city council should hold a vote at the very next city council meeting and set it on the agenda. First, direct staff to meet with me and respective chairs or delegates of the Planning Commission and ZBA to review the 2023 STR Snapshot Report. Ever since it was issued the Friday before the city council accepted it, I have cautioned of errors. I subsequently identified errors. The number of allowable business STRs were inflated by 15%, best I can tell. Staff said that they could not duplicate my math. I asked to meet with them with other people present, so it's not a he said, she said. We were told we'd get a workshop. There has been no workshop to discuss this. It's time we evaluate this STR Snapshot Report. 2, direct staff to define what on hold means for STRs. It should have the same meaning for both personal and business. If you care about the number of STRs in our city, it is imperative that the term be clearly defined. Does on hold mean that the STR holder timely applied for renewal and is simply waiting for the inspection that has been scheduled? Does it also include STRs with failed inspections? Does it also include STRs with an STR permit that has expired and there is no pending application or expired? And an application was filed late and the inspection has been scheduled and that inspection failed. Which is it? Most of all, how long can it be on hold? Indefinitely and let them rent without paying a fee for over a year on hold on status? I believe there's at least one example that's been brought to your attention. Is it all of the above? It is actually quite unclear. Each of those situations should have a different term. This is important because of the cap. As of today, there are 196 business STR permits on hold, 7 more than May 2023 and 12 more between May and March. And did you know that staff's opinion that while on hold, anyone can rent if it's on hold for renewal? Although what we've seen is that people rent after it's been expired, like over a year, so they have a year of income and no fee, while the permit remains on hold. If this is not the cart before the horse, I do not know what is. Regardless, what happens when one of those hold permits lapses? Who gets it? I have pointed out to you in an email where someone applied for a business STR, new business STR, not renew, new business STR, after the total number of business STR permits had been issued, according to a memo from the zoning administrator, but still got one. And that application was filed 2 days after someone else who had applied, whose still business STR application is on hold, and actually paid $600. It just doesn't seem right. If there are none available, application fees should not be accepted. If people want to be considered for the lottery, that should be conducted after the 2024 snapshot report, then apply, but only those who win should pay the fee, and only business STR permits should be granted after the 2024 snapshot report with the cap having been met. We cannot allow held permits to lapse and then give out how staff deems they should be given out. And South Haven zoning ordinance section 1743E should not apply now that we have hit the cap. Or was that something that was discussed in a closed meeting? Put a vote on a moratorium of granting business STR permits until after the January 2024 snapshot report. There is a cap, none should be issued. Direct staff to immediately stop granting any new business STR permits. There shouldn't be any, we hit the cap. This should not require a vote of the city council meeting to direct staff to do something that should already be happening under our codes, once we hit the cap. If any of you truly are concerned about the city and the number of business STR permits, you will support these requests tonight to unearth what is below the tip of the STR iceberg. Let's not be the next Titanic. In closing, I would like to thank Bill Hunter and Michelle Coffey for getting a crosswalk replaced after it disappeared by Newcomb Beach. Would like to thank Chief Thompson for her never-ending fight to protect our society, not only the two-legged, but the four-legged. And last but not least, I would like to know, when will the permanent fireplace meeting be held? Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Have we set a date yet for the fireplace meeting? I don't think we have yet, have we?
I'm not sure when the date is. I
Okay.
know that they have been looking to meet,
Okay.
but the schedules have not been working out.
Sounds good. Good evening, Bishop.
Good evening. Joe Wilkins, 8011 Indiana Street. I hate I missed the last STR workshop. I had to attend a Bishop conference. Councilwoman Wilkins had to attend that with me. But I want to state, I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I felt the urge to say this. Council Wilkins and I had no idea what we were getting into when we got involved in city politics. We had no idea. But because of our love for people from all walks of life and the hardships and understanding the hardships that they were going through, we realized that sitting on the sideline wasn't an option. I understand why a lot of clergy don't come and stand before you guys. But that wasn't an option for me. It wasn't an option for her as a teacher. So we get the grief. We get the backlash. We hear all the stuff. But I think it was the late John Lewis that said, sometimes you have to cause good trouble. I've stood here several times encouraging residents to get off the sideline and to vote, to help bring about positive changes to our city and to our neighborhoods. And which reminded me again of a quote by the late John Lewis. And I quote, he said, "We must use the tool of voting to redeem the soul of America," unquote. We must use the tool of voting to redeem the soul of America. This may come as a surprise to the council, but to many residents that I had an opportunity to talk to over the last couple of weeks, they feel like we're losing the soul and the identity of our city. They feel as if we're losing the soul and the identity of our city. Feel like it's being sold out from under us. That's a big concern to a lot of neighbors that are not willing to stand up and get on the mic and say it. But there is a great concern to many. The very character of our city is being snatched out from under us And the ones that I feel sorry for the most is the elderly people that worked all their life and thought they were going to retire in peaceful neighborhoods where they knew their neighbors. I feel sorry for those individuals that can't move away at this point. Election time is on us, and that's the good thing about our democracy. But I want to encourage the candidates that our city has been so divided over these top major issues. It is no time for any candidate to spew out of their mouths language that will cause more division. Language such as white privileges, comparing Texas' refusal to accept Emancipation and Proclamation and freedom of slaves, took them 2 years, and comparing that to the time frame that it took the city council to make a decision on food trucks. That's insulting. And it's language that has caused a great divide in this city. There's no place for that in this city at this time or any other time. We ought to be trying to bring people back together, this community back together. So I want to encourage the candidates, watch the rhetoric that they allow to spew out of their mouths, because it's not fair to me or anybody else in this city. We need to try to bridge the gap and move this city forward as one. I said it before and I'll say it again, we're stronger together. And so that is my closing statements, but I'm hoping that the candidates will understand that there's no place for that kind of talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anybody else?
Mike Campbell, 216 Erie Street. I want to build on what Bishop Wilkins said. It actually relates to Matt Weber, who is actually a backyard neighbor of mine living on Superior Street, who is an STR owner. We're neighborly to one another, even though he's only here a couple of times a year. He made some comments at the second workshop that struck me because I remembered the same thing happened to me. He said that once he purchased his home or built his home in 2019, all of a sudden he had an unwelcome feeling within the town. We started coming to South Haven as tourists in the late 90s. We purchased a home because we love South Haven, so in 2003. When we were tourists, everything was bright and shiny, just like the large sculptures that are standing around town. Once we bought the house, the sculptures started to tarnish. We too had an unwelcome feeling from within the community. Our neighbors said, "Be careful, your FIPs." I said, "What's that?" "Oh, that's a common term that is used around this town. The IP means Illinois person. The F means," I'll give you one guess. So that was our introduction once we moved here and bought a house, just like the unwelcoming feeling Matt felt when he built his house. To top that off, as we started remodeling our house to try to make it better and improve the neighborhood, we couldn't find any local contractors or vendors. No one would return our phone call. Our neighbors said, "Well, why don't you call them back and say you'll pay cash?" I'm not sure why my check wasn't as good as anyone else's. Over the course of time, we built a bunch of vendors who are servicing our house, most of which are not from South Haven, other than my trusted electrician who is. So kudos to my electrician. Go back 70 more years. Talk about the heyday of the Jewish resorts in this town. If you read carefully the history, They came about as a result of the fact that the Jewish tourists would come to Western Michigan, not just South Haven. No one would provide them lodging. So at first they started on living on the farms of the Jewish immigrants who were here. And then, wisely, some affluent Jews from the Chicago area bought up resorts and built them up so that the Jewish tourists actually had a place to go. So this unwelcome spirit, you know, I can go back 100 years, and I'm sure there's many instances that others can bring up about an unwelcome spirit to outsiders. And I'm guessing people of color in this room could probably give examples of that very thing happening to them when they came here. So my message to Matt is, this is nothing new. This has been around. Now let me qualify. It's not pervasive, it's not everywhere, not everyone. There are many lovely people in this town, and there are many lovely things about it. And not every, and it's probably in every town. It's just that in a small town, I think you feel it and you hear it and you see it a lot easier. So my challenge to this council is this. This is not a diss on you, this is an opportunity. The anxiety and anger level for the last year has been going through the roof. And not a lot has been happening. It's like a building's on fire and you're watching it burn to the ground. I know your legacy of Overton probably won't happen during the remainder of your leadership. This council counts on you to lead them and take new steps to help the people in this town come back together. I would encourage you to use your remaining months to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anybody else? Nope. Good evening.
Eric Cobb, 914 Center Street. My question would be, for the short-term rental, how many, for the home being built, rather, the new home being constructed, how many is short-term rental, and how many is the people's, full-time resident? Because I was asked the other day, and I didn't know the answer, a young man that was raised here in South Haven, and he moved away, but he came back, he was just riding around town, and he asked me, why is there no new construction over on this side of town anywhere? All the new construction's over on that side of town, like the south side in that area over there. And he asked me, what all them short-term rental? I don't know. I didn't know the answer to that. But but the density, I remember, I think it was back in the 90s or 80s when they were trying to get that hotel and water park or that Bond aluminum. And the main reason was that was too high. It would be too high, too tall, too much density. And now I see some of the houses almost tall as that hotel and water park would have been. So, I don't understand how things could change so fast. And I've been here 50 years. In my house, the house we own, 50 years. It'll be 50 years this year. And South Haven, I saw a lot of changes in South Haven. I see a house on Edger Street, east of Kalamazoo Street. Ernie Mosley used to own that house. And now that house is 2.5 times larger than it were when they owned that house. So how could the city change so fast? Because like I said, I've been in the rental business for 30 years, and I remember when they wouldn't allow a duplex on that side of town. You couldn't put a duplex over there. Now I see 3-story houses down on, So I would just like to know why is they allowing all of this high density? Maybe I missed something because I remember when they didn't allow a duplex. Now it's 3-story. And the short term, I would like to know how many them houses being built on the south side is short term, and how many of the houses being built is people that live in South Haven, is they LLCs from out of town? Thank you.
We can get you,
Good question.
we can get you some. I mean, we've got a report that shows that. Maybe we can get it to them. I mean, we do track that, so.
I'm Walt Placotti, 559 Monroe Boulevard, South Haven.
Good evening.
Reverend Cobb, there's a lot of things people who live here don't understand. Anyway, Mayor, I'd like to piggyback on what the bishop said. You have time left to stand up and lead. I mean, that whole second workshop just showed the non-functionality of this council. And the main problem is there's no leadership. So you have a choice now to either stand up and lead the rest of your term. The elections are coming. But if you're not going to do anything, if you're just going to sit there like deer in the headlights, please put it on the ballot for the residents of South Haven to vote on what they would like their neighborhoods to look like. Instead of outside investors, people living in gated communities making decisions that do not affect them, and everything else that goes along with it. Please, put it on the ballot. Take it off your backs. You guys don't want to make a decision. It's so obvious. Put it to the people. Let them decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I think that's it. Kate?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. My comments are relatively brief. I know that we're meeting today in observation of Juneteenth, so thank you very much, Wendy Onuki, for making that motion. Secondly, I wanted to thank the police officers, DPW, and all the rest who worked this weekend. I know we had Juneteenth going on, as well as Harbor Fest. Both those events came off really well, and I'm happy to hear that everything was relatively safe with all of our attention on that. I do know that we have a number of things going on. We have our restroom renovation happening over at the Dykeman Street bathrooms. That's taking a little bit longer than we were hoping for due to some construction delays, as well as we are still having issues with our air conditioning. So we're hoping in 2 weeks that we'll have that back up. So again, construction delays are plaguing many of our projects right now. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Council comments. I'll start on the left again, just to throw you off. Good evening.
I feel special. First, I would like to thank everyone for coming tonight, and I would also like to thank Mrs. Monique Crowley and her committee for another successful Juneteenth. I was not able to attend, but due to weddings and a graduation and a family reunion, I didn't get to go, but I did get a chance to ride by, and it was well attended. So thanks and kudos out to her and her committee. Job well done. I also want to remind the residents of Ward 1 that we are listening to you, and we value your concerns and your voices. And please continue to trust us that we have your best interests at heart. Thank you.
Steve?
No comment.
No comment.
I just had a couple of things. The first one was, I know there were emails about the Harbor Fest live animal edition that wasn't in the application that we approved. So I was a little bit disappointed that they made substantial changes after we had already approved the event and didn't amend it, to my knowledge. So I don't know if there's any way that going forward we could kind of watch those and prevent it from happening, maybe talk to them about it after the fact this year. I think that would be good. And then a small, well, I guess it maybe wouldn't be small, but I know there were some issues with the new bridge tenders putting down the gates when cars were still trapped in there. Just has the potential to be a little bit scary. So I don't know if there's anyone in the city that can kind of check that that doesn't happen.
I can check on that, but that's the first I've heard of it. Can we talk after the meeting? You give me some more details?
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
And then, yeah, I just wanted to say that I hope the Juneteenth celebration was great. I wasn't able to attend. I was out of town for a graduation party, but I'm happy to hear that a lot of people turned out and that it was a good event. So those are my comments.
Very good. Thanks. George?
Also, thank you to everyone that came tonight. One of the things I like about South Haven is its walkability, and I think I'm not alone because I've been seeing a lot of people walking around, a lot of pedestrians, and especially around the Dykeman Street Bridge. I just want to encourage everyone, if you're driving or if you're walking, just be careful. Watch out for cars if you're walking. Watch out for pedestrians if you're driving, because it can get kind of busy out there with pedestrians. That's it.
Very good. Thank you.
Just a couple comments. First, Juneteenth. I'm really grateful that we had a president that made it a national holiday. I think I'm aware of the racial issues in this country. I have a wife that's a social worker. And I have to admit, 4 years ago, I never knew what Juneteenth was. But because of the national holiday, because there's so much focus on it, a lot of people in this country have no idea what happened, are now aware of it. So I think it's a great thing. And I was really grateful, having been at the Juneteenth celebration, that there was such a mix of people, such a various, all different ages and races, and everyone got along. And that at that moment was the best part of what South Haven is. Harbor Fest, I loved the night they had the group that sounded like Journey. But what I was also impressed with, there were these big crowds. And I came from a different side of this country that big crowds were always a worry about fights. Back in those days, we didn't have shootings. Everyone seemed to get along. Everyone was happy. And it seemed like, and maybe the tourist bureau can count, but it seemed like we had a lot of people in town that weekend, a lot of tourists, and I'm always grateful for that. The last one is the sticky issue, and that's short-term rentals. I think there's so many sides to this. I've said it before, I am willing, as just one city council person, to meet with the people that think short-term rentals are good in this community, because I know some of the good points. But I think there is a middle ground that we could find. I think we can stop this division. And I am more than willing. I met one of the short-term rental management companies, I guess you could call him, and we had a nice civil discussion. No conclusion, but it was a first step. I'd like to meet a couple of the heads of the short-term rental groups and sit down and talk to them. I can't speak for the city council, and I sure can't speak for staff, but I don't want to sound like I'm promoting myself, but I am running for mayor. I want to learn. I've been going to houses week after week, over 150. This is on everyone's mind. And most people do want to compromise. Most people want a balance in the city. And I still think it can be found. So I'm offering anyone from the side of the investors, the short-term rentals, to sit down with me, 2 or 3 of them, and just teach me why you think it's so important, and let me give you the other side, and let's see if we can find a middle ground. This does not have to keep ripping at this town. We have too many people that came here because they love the town, and I think we could get this thing fixed, and I think we can do it sooner than later. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, again, congratulations also to Monique on that Juneteenth event. I was glad to see it was, as you said, well attended. Harbor Fest, fun to see everybody out and about, running around in town. And Chief, again, thanks for keeping law and order. I was down about a few times, and again, a lot of folks out walking about, as George pointed out, so it was nice. If you're out driving around, we have a 3rd major expansion in town. Spencer Manufacturing broke ground. So that makes Revere, Grace, and now Spencer as 3 of our, pretty substantial multi-million-dollar expansions that are occurring as we speak, which is very exciting for town. Kids Corner is open, looks great. It's working well for your kids. Had really kind of a nice email. I think I was the only one that got it. I should forward it. But just some really nice comments about our downtown and kind of the mix of the old and the new, and just kind of real nice, just kind of how downtown is looking, and felt like it's very vibrant downtown. So it was just kind of a really nice email. So on STRs, I think I understand the wish and desire that I, as one, can take 7 people however we want to go with this issue. We've been up and down and around about this issue more than any other topic, period, end of story. We talk about that more than economic development. We talk about it more than housing. We talk about it more than anything. We've got, I think, 8 or 9 priorities, but does anybody know what the other 7 or 8 are? Because we have spent just a ton of time on that topic. We've met, we just had a meeting, got through some topics, and again, not enough. So, I mean, I think we as a group have agreed, committed to continue to work through the process. Again, the workshop, I think, was yet, I think for some of us, just another step at what I consider to be a relatively, long march. So I think we're committed to continue to look at it. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. But we have continued to work through it. We just left the workshop, the last workshop. I think everyone got a chance to speak their mind, say their piece.
First time.
Right. So, again, we continue to provide opportunities. So, and if there's divisiveness, I think we know where a lot of it's coming from. So, it's disappointing that we continue to kind of have these divisive discussions. So, on that note, I will seek a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no.